So let's consider this a sort of developer's log. And first we must give thanks to the muse, for her inspiration is certainly amusing. So to cosmic Kimāt, and to the public domain, and to freedom of information, and to freedom of culture, to freedom, real freedom. So the game started, the concept for the game, the board for the game is actually a couple years old. And I was just exploring trinary and triangular grids and the layout of the trinary coordinates in a triangular grid and trying to make it intuitive as far as the relationship between each other and how they get splayed out. And I feel like I've achieved that. Maybe there might be like other logical ways of arranging it, but there is some level of like regularity to it that builds intuitiveness as far as like where everything's laid out, as far as like there's three coordinates, three base values for the coordinates, either triangle, 0, or x, and then three spaces as far as like in the realms of material manifestation or the so-called halls. There'd be 27 of them because there's three, and then three spaces for the coordinates, so it can be x, 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 y, or x triangle 0. Very PlayStation-like. But the inspiration was not PlayStation, however, it was otherwise. But yeah, the board was really old, and then I recently I wanted to play an RPG, and this game is not an RPG. It's just the setting and the story and everything else that I was coming up with. It was for a homebrew campaign that we ended up playing one session of. I played at Faye, and it was awesome. I adapted the board. I made the same layout, the same triangle layout, but then I made it into a spaceship. And each of the rooms, each of the realms and stuff was like different rooms, and then the center was a control room, and then like the three around it were like engine rooms, but like it connected differently, like I drew it in order to connect differently. And it was really interesting. Like I did a lot of work for just one session, but at the end of the day, like the setting was really fruitful and rich, and something that I spent a lot of time thinking about and developing. So when it came time to make a game, first like the board was already so suggestive of a game. I was even planning on coming up with like board games. I call it pyramids, and then I was coming up with like rules back then, but more for a board game, very simple rules. But I feel like right now it's really fleshed out and coming together. And then there's like three races. The whole idea is like it's like Egypt rules the universe, the cosmos. But this is set in the second era, so there's three eras, and this one's set in the second. The first era was the era in which there was a universal rule, and the pharaoh ruled everything essentially. And that's what the Kimāt Dominion kind of traces its roots back to. So they still feel like they should rule the whole world because they all used to be part of their dominion, or at least like they feel like they're descendants. Everybody descends from them, of course, because it used to be all the same thing. But they feel like they have like the legacy of the pharaoh. So they're trying to reestablish that. And then there's El Kibari, which is they're more like militaristic, but pharaonic, Egyptian. Agrarian, sort of aristocratic. Then there's El Kibari, which is like the second biggest. So obviously in the rules of 3 being 27, there's 18 chambers or 18 halls. I called them chambers before, but now halls kind of make sense with the wordplay. So there's 18 halls which belong to the Kimāt Dominion. So they're by far the largest. 6 of them are in El Kibari, part of they make up the Republic of El Kibar, and then Zugura is just 3 realms big, but they're very important because they're also the richest. So I'll get to them in a little bit, but I do feel like it's time for another smoke. So that's basically the overview of the Kimāt Dominion. I'll talk a little bit about the other two, and then I guess maybe we'll cut it short for this first devlog. So the Occupied Republic is more decadent Rome slash Renaissance Italy. The Republic, the three different races, sort of all share power, and there's very much an aristocracy, but its economic base is an oligarchy. The houses, the traditional houses of the Republic, those are hereditary, so there's like some level of like control, like historical control by the same people as far as like the aristocracy, but it's an oligarchy based on not just on wealth, but on like status. But obviously wealth correlates with that because they have power within Elkibar. So I imagine them as like basically a merchant republic, the idea of a merchant republic, very corrupt, definitely the most corrupt. At least Sugura is they're anarchist. So then that leads to efficacy. And then there's obviously corruption in Elkivar as well, but they tend to have more honor or more devotion to the emperor, more filial piety kind of thing to the pharaoh. So Elkibar is definitely where it's just a mafia, like as far as the you get a bribe for everything, and they're all about the money, but they're not the richest. Sugura is the richest. They're only just in second place as far as economically goes, and then technically the Dominion is the poorest economically, but they're the most powerful militarily, kind of thing. But yeah, that's, I guess, it's a brief overview. They do have some Eastern elements too. Imagine maybe Indonesia, aesthetic would be good for them too, with like sort of like a sultan trading, but they don't have a sultan. They have the republic. It's called the mouth. So their speaker is a tongue, and then they're always black. The tongue, because that used to be the royalty. So the tongue and the speaker, basically like they get set up into each vote in its cast of one person that comes from a lime green from a green background, one person that comes from a yellow background, and one from a black background, in order to ensure sort of like, how like some parliaments like ensure like minorities certain seats and stuff. So the black is the tongue, the green is the upper lip because they represent the middle class, and then the yellow is the lower lip because they represent the lower class. But you have to have a lower lip and an upper lip and a tongue agree on something, and the tongue is sort of like the deliverer of the message because they're the head of the committee. But it is like based on the triumvirate structure. But there's I think it's like 72 different members of the parliament, so that makes however many different like sets of those. But that's basically like the historical nature of it. So that's a little bit on Elkibar. That's why their flag is kind of like a mouth. And then the Dominion of the Keys is 2 keys because he has the pharaoh carries he has 18 keys, and I think around his neck or something, and eventually he wants all 27, but he has like 18 keys, so it's like an infinity sign and then 2 keys. And then Sugura is my favorite. In Sugura we find nomads. There are nomads, but they're also investment bankers. The world runs in a cryptocurrency, in a blockchain kind of, but it's a trinary blockchain. Because the essential computing there is obviously trinary, considering the importance of the number 3 in the whole system. So that's just more flavor. I don't think we're gonna model a trinary state computer in order to figure out how their logic would work or something as far as the currency. Even though that would be really interesting if somebody wants to get into that and model an economic system based on a trinary state cryptocurrency. That would be philosophically interesting on its own, and it would have a pretty interesting application to this game. Unexpected, because I don't know how that would work out, actually. I don't have the intuition. But Segura, basically I imagine them as like Swiss mixed with like desert Arabs. So yeah, like, they're like the Swiss in the sense that they hold the currency, the dinar. So that's why it's a circle with a D and then the little thing. It's just a coin, a dinar, which is the currency of the setting. So they hold most of the currencies, but they're anarchic. They have tribes, but they're all based on like they're very easygoing, but also very honorable, because everybody has to fend for themselves with their social sort of like holistic anarchism, where it's very resilient because it's so decentralized, and then they move around, but they have wild technology. They walk. And they have caravans that are, pulled by different animals and stuff, but they walk everywhere barefoot, and then they eat fruit. The entire country, well, there's like different regions. There's one region that's more forested and stuff, and then they travel in rivers and stuff. That's definitely the most fleshed out part of the world, because it's only three halls, so that's where I set it at first. But there's different histories and stuff and different parts. But basically, as far as it goes, the traditional Segura. There's fruit everywhere in the cities and the countryside, and that's their primary. They don't really practice so much like agriculture, so much as being a tropical sort of environment. Like there's always fruit available, and then they supplement. They eat other things. They do have grains and seasonal agriculture, like the Native Americans would do, where they would plant and then move and then come back in harvest season. They do have that as well, but it's supplemented. The primary diet is fruit. So that's Segura. Their national sport is charades. I imagine them also dressed like, with like lots of furs for some reason, even though it's kind of like a tropical environment. Like there's mountains also in parts of it, so like they'll have like more like wool fur, like kind of like an Andean, I imagine like an Inca style look to them, but with like a desert Arab like poetic culture, and then like this sort of like the Swiss situation as far as like the bankers. So that makes them pretty unique. So anyways, yeah, that's the three, the dominion of the Keys, or the Keisian dominion. As an adjective is Keisian. And then it's just, the official side is dominion of the Keys. Then the Republic of Elkibar, or the Elkibari Republic, or whatever, either way it works. And then the realms of Segura, or Segura. Anyways, that's a big overview of the nations. I'll give more information as to the rest of the setting and different things about it later, probably in other videos, but hopefully that was of interest, and it gets you involved. Coders in particular are welcome, but honestly at this point, it's a public domain setting, it's a public domain game, so I won't use all the art, but like if I can find artists, I'm already asking I asked one of my friends who's an artist, who I really like his sketches, that I feel like, well, if he wants to start making sketches in this setting, like eventually, like I'll put it as concept art in an art book or something, And my idea for the game is public domain and it's free, so like I'm not gonna monetize it. The game won't be charged. Everything will be free because it is public domain. So, but eventually, I feel like with all the art and merchandise and stuff, having the website, being the source of the game. Sure, anybody can fork it, anybody can sell it, anybody can distribute it, anybody can take the designs and like make the characters or the setting or whatever and make their own merchandise off of it. But like it'd probably be enough, like given I think that it'll still be profitable eventually down the line once there's an actual game and an actual community and everything else to sell merchandise, sell shirts, or sell the art book or the design book or like the manuals or like whatever the fuck, a poster, the sky's the limit, and I'm very creative. I have a lot of ideas. I think the spun out the cosmic fidget spinner is like a classic. That would make a really good like shirt or whatever else, or like even for cups or whatever. Because it shows the primary thing of the world, which is the triangle 0x, and then the it's basically the cosmic apotheosis, the guy going through like just like breaching reality and transcending the world, and just like he doesn't even have pupils. He's just, I didn't make him do it at first on purpose, But on when I was like vectorizing it, I made his mouth kind of like the Godot engine dude, because he kind of looks like a Godot engine dude. So that's kind of a funny. But so it's kind of, he's like getting sucked into this vortex. But then I thought he looked like a fidget spinner, so he was like spun out the cosmic fidget spinner, which I think is a pretty fucking great line. And it just make so things like that. Like I feel like I'm very creative, and like that on a shirt would work if I said reference to the game, and like then different shirts for the different nations with like the flag, and then like maybe like one of the characters and like a setting or something, you know what I mean, or like or just like basic like the logo of the game, and like people might still buy it, or whatever. Like the whole point being that there's still a opportunity for profit by providing additional merchandise related to the game, while still being able to do everything as a work of art, as a work of love, as a work of dedication to a cause and a philosophy, and the freedom of inherent to our nature that it is now given to us to express. Anyways, my name is Alfredo Aolif. Alfredo. Developing Cosmic Kimāt, a 2D game in the Godot engine. Sid Meier-esque in scope and simplicity is my goal design, and I do feel that way. I feel like, especially like given the quirks of it, like I'm developing in the manual and stuff, I feel like it has a very like early 90s, like where people are just, they had a lot of like very talented people just hacking away like with very little oversight or but at the same time with a lot of intuition as to what works, and a lot of like genius to the design. And I feel like that's where this is heading in its own, just because it's built it's taking so long to put together, but at the same time the pieces are coming together so well that I'm really excited to where this project is going. So feel free to join. Anybody's welcome, so long as you're okay with your work being in the public domain. Even writers and stuff, like if you fuck with the setting, like the sky's the limit, and we might not use everything, but the whole point being eventually there'll be procedural event chains and triggers and stuff. So even if we don't make something an integral part of the setting, like different ideas and stories and whatever else are definitely could be reworked for events. So there's room for everybody, and it's a work of love, it's a work of art. It's gonna be awesome. So yeah, cosmickimmat.com, COSMICKIMAT.com. Peace. Many blessings.